The following program contains views that are not those of WVTC, iNetworks Communications, their subsidiaries, affiliates, or financial supporters.
Well, hello there, family. Welcome to You Plant, We Water. Here in this corner of the world, we focus on combining your faith, mental health, and relationship satisfaction. Our hope is that we can help you to have the fulfilling, thriving, healthy relationship that God wants for you. I'm your host, Dr. Toy Flowers, licensed professional counselor with a specialization in couples and family counseling, and professor of counseling, and my distinguished co-host.
Hi, I'm Trisha Flowers, and I am a minister and a lifestyle coach.
So before we begin today, we want to thank our executive producer, Bishop Lloyd Kohler, and we will, if we remember, we'll have a little announcement at the end. We can promote some of event space. All right, so having said that, today's show, we're going to be doing things a little different. We're going to start with a scenario we have where someone is seeking advice on what they should do given this particular situation. And as I shared last week, we're going to share the petty, the professional, and the prophetic, right? So you're going to get some advice from all three perspectives. My hope is that you'll lean into the professional and prophetic and not so much to the petty, but you never know, depending on the situation. And then after that, we've got something else in store for you. So let's go to the scenario. Maya, these are made up names. These are not. So Maya, if you're listening, or Chris, these are not, we're not talking about whoever that is. This is completely made up names. Maya, age 25, and Chris, age 27, have been together for 3 years. Maya recently discovered that Chris has been following and liking photos of his ex-girlfriend's Instagram account. All right. Maya feels betrayed, insecure, and wonders if Chris still has feelings for his ex. The issue. Chris claims he's just being friendly and doesn't see the issue. Maya disagrees, feeling that Chris's actions are a breach of trust and intimacy. Chris argues that Maya is being overly possessive and controlling. So, the advice: is Chris's behavior a harmless gesture, or is it a boundary violation?
Well, again, it depends on the relationship, but my advice is a boundary violation. I would not feel secure if my husband is liking photos, and it depends on what type of photos these are that he's liking. If they're wholesome, then it's not really an issue, but we have to dive deeper into what kind of photos are you liking.
Yeah. It's not a harmless gesture. We can say that. And the reason you know it's not harmless is because it's being done in the dark. If it were harmless, then Maya would have already known. So there, she is right that it's a betrayal. You could be liking the photos of a duck, right? Like why is the secrecy about it? Now, having said that, to your point about what are the photos, all of those things, that's where we get into, is this something even bigger, right? And I think the real issue is, what are the boundaries in their relationship? What have they previously discussed? Is it okay to follow exes and things like that? Is it okay to like, you know, 'cause Instagram, who knows? She might be an Instagram model, right? Like, is it okay to like bikini pictures or things like that? Or is it only okay to like, I don't know, family pictures or what have you? I don't think, to your point, Trish, I don't think in and of itself it's wrong to follow ex. Like, I have friends on Facebook who are exes from years ago. They're happily married. Like, there's nothing, you know, going on there, but it's this having discovered or being secret for me. So what's our petty professional and prophetic advice? I know my petty advice. I don't know if you should follow him.
The professional advice is to find out and dive deeper into what's going on. Why is it a secret? What would make it be? Why in this relationship does one person feel like it needs to be a secret? And good evening.
Good comment.
Wait, I'm trying to read and talk. So
You said that's your last day in that current relationship.
absolutely.
Bum, bum, bum. Nah.
Absolutely. And my petty advice to you, because I've told you guys I have a degree in pettyism, is to, one, do the same thing
I
back
was gonna say the same thing. If you want to be petty,
and make it up a notch. So make sure that the people that you're liking are people that are outside of the league of the male or female, right? You up it. So if they were liking Instagram models, you get you a professional NBA player and you click onto it.
me and LeBron James used to date, you know. That's the petty advice. Is it gonna help your relationship? Probably not, right? You're probably gonna be at each other, right? But that's a petty. Professional, you said you're
Professional and prophetic is to pray over that situation, because God may be revealing this for you to leave, right? It could have been something small, and you may have been released from this relationship, especially if you guys are just dating and this is a newer situation. That might be the release for you.
Could be. Professional, what I would say is you definitely need to have a conversation, and you need to talk about boundaries. What is and isn't acceptable to each of you in the relationship? And then you need to come to some type of agreement, right? So Maya feels betrayed, disrespected, and insecure. And it's not surprising that she would feel that way. That needs to be communicated to Chris, which she already has, and she needs to set a clear boundary. Chris, if you're going to be in relationship with me, we're not going to follow certain exes or whatever. Or maybe you, depending on the couple and things that have happened, some people avoid social media altogether. Some people have a social media account that is joint, right? It's going to depend on that relationship and why those boundaries are in place. Has there been cheating in the past that came from social media, right? That determines, when I'm working with couples, which is very common. I have a couple I'm working with right now where in session, she printed out the text messages in full color that he didn't know she had, that showed some inappropriate words and some inappropriate pictures, right? So me and him were like, I was like, okay. I was sweating, y'all. But anywho, that's going to be the professional, right? What do the boundaries need to be based off of these two people in relationships so they can continue, if that's something that they want to continue, right? Maybe Chris was unaware. Maybe he did really think this wasn't that big an issue, or he thought, you know, I don't like her, whatever it is. You can talk it through. And then if those boundaries are violated in the future, then you know what, prophetic is session over. I was like, how many more minutes do we got? And then prophetic, we get the signal.
And I'm having this conversation.
Right. Prophetic, it might be God telling you that it's the time, but what we do know is that anything done in the dark will come to light, right? There's so many Bible verses we can bring. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If Chris truly feels this is an issue, then he really shouldn't feel that it's a problem for Maya to engage with her exes in the same way. But if he does, then we can see like, okay, maybe there's some things going on there. And then are they putting each other first, especially if this is a married couple? Is Chris's liking and following his ex, is that him loving her as Christ would love the church? I think those are the things they would have to think about on the prophetic. So that would be our suggestions. Then it's up to you whether you choose the petty, professional, or prophetic. But be warned, I do not suggest the petty. Let's see, Latrice says, I wouldn't be in that relationship. I'm out. But after my petty pasting self putting up pics of me and my ex, all right? I love it, Latrice. Like, but not until you get a little.
But tasting your own medicine never hurt. No, I'm just playing, guys.
Here's my millionaire ex, and we're on his jet.
But you can also be delivered from petty too. So just know that.
You can, if you want. All right. So we're going to bring these situation scenarios and give little quick advice and things like that each time, right? Ultimately, honestly, truthfully, the thing is you need a dialogue. You need to have open communication and discuss whether this is okay, it's not okay, whether you're staying, whether you're leaving, but a conversation needs to be had. All right. Now we're introducing you to something new that we're trying. We'll see how this goes. We're calling it I'm gonna share a little more than I want to share. But I'm of the generation where hip hop was really coming to be, right? We used to have this thing called freestyle, where you would battle it out, but you couldn't write the lyrics. You had to just come up with them. They used to call it off the dome. For young people, that meant your head, right? So you have to just pop, like, and then they'd be like, ooh, they told you, right? It was like playing the dozens for a different generation, roasting, all of those things, but it was through rap. So we are going to be freestyling on certain shows. And what that means is we are going to be going completely unscripted, be afraid, and we're going to ask each other questions and provide answers. We have no idea right now what questions we're going to ask or what answers we're going to come up with, but that's the fun of it. So we're going to do that for the rest of this time. Join us. If you have some questions, thoughts, let us know. It's freestyle. We can all talk and dialogue. Having said that, shall I go? I know I have one I mentioned to you briefly, but do you want to go first?
You can go.
I know y'all like, didn't she say freestyle? See what had happened in preparing for the freestyle. I gave an example, and I was like, I'm going to ask you that. Okay. But my freestyle question for you has to do with friendship in relationships. Do you think it's important for couples to also be friends?
Absolutely. I think that if your mate is your friend, a lot of the issues that you guys go through can be brought down some when you go back to being friends first. So sometimes when we're in relationships, we're so heated, we're so in the moment that we forget. But when you're friends, it's little inside jokes that'll bring you off, like, maybe we, maybe we should have did. Yes. And so you can come down from some of that tension. And people that are your friends, you generally like them. I mean, maybe not in the argument stage, but you generally like the person, the presence, their characteristics that bond you guys together outside of just the relationship.
Yes. All right. Yes. Reverend Dr. Morris, he says it's mandatory for a good relationship, right? You have to be friends. I love how you mentioned the inside jokes. So that's something I hadn't thought about that is a part of friendship when you're in a relationship. Like, maybe you share funny videos or you saw something happen and now you, say it all the time. What do you this is the follow-up to the same question, because I think some couples get afraid that with friendship and when you become long-term couples, right? We're talking 10, 20 years, that's all that has left and that they've lost the passion, the spark. I'm thinking about when people say we're just like roommates or good.
Now that's not fun. That's not a fun experience. But I think that's not really even a friend, because as a friend, you're going to continue to go on adventures together, right? So you lose some of that. That's a roommate. So if you're with your roommate, you might want to try to come back to being friends and go out and do things that you guys both enjoy. Figuring out what made you guys friends in the beginning.
Mhm.
But a roommate, you don't have to necessarily like your roommate. So when you guys are getting to that stage, you just kind of want to find the things that brought you together, or find things that you might have wanted to try. And if this is your friend, typically your friend is going to want to try it with you, and you guys are going to be able to bond off of that. So just try new things to, like, don't make it so mundane where it's boring.
Yeah. And that's actually professional advice, that being with someone over a long time, you are going to reach a plateau where it's not going to be exciting all the time. And the way you bring some of that back is by trying new things together, having new experiences together. But I do see this a lot in couples where they are friends. They are great friends. But usually when they say we're more like friends, what the thing underneath that is that they're trying to say is they're no longer being physically intimate, and they don't know how to get back to it. Because, a lot of times, I know in my old days, they say, did you get in the friend zone? That means people are uncomfortable in the studio. Okay.
So you were saying when people lose the intimacy, it's typically what?
When I hear in session, when they're like, we're just really good friends, we do everything, and they might travel, they may be doing everything together, what they're saying while they're seeing me. There's nothing wrong with being really good friends. But by the time you're coming to see a counselor, what they're usually saying, but not saying, is they're not being physically intimate anymore. And they may not know how to get back in that pattern.
And what would be some tips of helping them to get back to that?
Petty,
initial.
I would say a little Luther Vandross, Marvin Gaye. No, I'm just kidding. No, professional advice. It's hard because what happens is over years you can get into a pattern and a rhythm where the attempts feel unnatural. They don't feel spontaneous. They might feel forced or like a job. And so it can be hard to get back into that. But we have something we prescribe. It's called Sensate Focus. And over several sessions, we'll actually walk a couple through, like there's these rules. It's kind of like, think of like playing a game, and each day there's only certain things they could do. Like the first day, you can only look at each other, but you can't touch. The second day, you can touch, I don't know, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but maybe a kneecap. No, I'm just kidding. But it's to bring, because the counselor is prescribing it, there's nobody who's going to get rejected. There's not a lot of pressure, and it really walks it through gradually. So that's one thing we can do.
I love that, just in case, but I do think that bringing it back and wrapping it up, as we've been told. No, I do think that having a friend in the beginning makes for an amazing relationship, because that'll be your person that you go to. And if I don't want to be your friend, I probably don't want to be in a relationship with you.
Well said. And truthfully, in the end, as you age and you're in a loving relationship, sometimes the physical intimacy is going to change. And what do you have then at the core? You need to have that friendship, right? Like that's holding you together. So what's that? Your turn.
So I want to know, what do you think about friendships that people have outside of the relationship, like a best friend or a sister or a brother? What do you think about that?
Dun, dun, dun. No. I think it's okay to have friends of the opposite sex. And I think the litmus test, that's something that we used to say, the thing that tests whether this is legit, healthy, and wholesome is, does your partner know them? You can't introduce your partner to that friend, then it's a problem. But I think if you're going to have friends of the opposite sex, your significant other should know that person as well. Doesn't mean they have to be best friends, but they should know, like, hey, this is so-and-so. I didn't used to feel that way. In my younger years, I have literally said, the only friend you need that's a female is moi. Yours truly. But it wasn't literal. Like, we still had friends of the opposite sex. But me personally, I think the key is being transparent. And if they're truly a friend, then we should all know each other in some way. But it's a slippery slope. What are your thoughts?
I'm still under the impression that we don't need to have secret friends.
No secret friends. I don't agree with that at all. But it's not a secret. I don't believe in secret friends. A secret friend is an affair. Let's just keep it on. called an emotional cheating.
But I'm okay, like you said, as long as it's open and I'm aware of what's going on as far as like if you guys are going out to lunch. And if I choose that I want to go out to lunch, is this going to be okay? Those are the things and the litmus test that I'm testing for. If you say no, then it's an automatic, I'm not feeling good about this situation for me personally.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then when you mentioned going out for lunch and stuff, that already made me like, now wait a minute, I just thought y'all was friends. No, see, so that's how it could be. It could get real messy, but I think this is one instance where you as an individual have to trust your gut. And people say, oh, your gut instinct is very valid. And what it is doing, it is your body picking up on everything that is going on that your mind cannot yet process. Trust that gut instinct. When you meet that friend, it's something, you will feel something and follow it.
I love that. And then I'm going to ask you one more question.
Let that, not just know them, but let that friend know that your person, you're in a relationship with them. Yes. And they're, come on, Reverend Dr. Morris. This is a great, he said, no, not just to let them know each other, but to make sure that that friend knows you're in a relationship and that this person is the most important person in my life. That's beautiful. That's setting that boundary with that friend. I love that.
And so this goes to that. So we had a friend, we had two, it was a guy and two girls. And the guy ended up finding a new girlfriend. And the two friends felt put off because the girlfriend didn't address them. And my thought process was, you're not important. Like, I mean, he did say hello, to them, and he introduced them, but they're like, she should have said this because we've been his friends for 27 years. And in my opinion, that's what your place is the friend. You don't have a place of honor. You're the friend. So I know when I'm a friend of someone, I'm not telling their wife or their girlfriend, their fiance that they must come through me. Like, you have no grounds. But it was a real thing, and they were so taken aback, the two young ladies, when I told them, are you doing that when you guys are in a relationship? And then recently, one of them had gotten married, and she was like, you were right. I'm like, right, because would you feel okay if your mate was putting the friends first in the relationship?
Yeah. Yeah. And those are all the things you definitely need to navigate. I don't think, I would agree. I don't think the friends should dictate what happens in the relationship or anything. I think those are boundaries, right, that need to be expressed. And as a counselor, I want to know what is it? What is at the root of that? Where is that coming from? Why is it so important to them? Right? All right. Let me see. Another question. I was so into your question, I wasn't even thinking of a question. Let's see. What's something I'm curious about?
I'm scared.
I don't want to get the boundaries are key. Yes, all caps. I don't want to get in trouble. But I say, well, no, I'm not gonna say it. No, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna say that question. I'm gonna do a different.
Okay.
Okay. What do you think about gender roles, right? Like, do you think, but what I mean by gender roles is like women should cook and clean, men should be the breadwinner. Do you think that gender roles have a place? Do you think they're outdated? What are your thoughts?
So I'm traditional, non-traditional, right? So traditionally, I don't have a problem with making sure I am submissive to my husband. That's not a problem for me. But I do need to know that my husband is also listening to God, because I won't be submitting to anyone that does not have that foundation. However, the gender roles,
which are different,
are completely different, right? So for me personally, okay, I can't even see because I don't have my glasses on.
Oh, how soon should you discuss boundaries? Excellent question, Latrice. Man is in charge as long as he is following God. So how soon should you discuss boundaries? Early and often, right? So it's not a one-time discussion. It's something that's going to continue. You're going to continue to check in and talk about, because your relationship is going to continue to grow and evolve. But I say early on, like, once y'all want to do this, you really like, even before you decided you want to be a couple, because this may be what determines, well, maybe I don't want to be with that person. If they feel like they need X, Y, and Z, I can't provide that. You can be like, great, let's go our separate ways. So early and often.
And so back to the gender roles. So me personally, I don't enjoy cooking. My significant other is actually the better cook. I don't ever tell him that, but he will go ahead and do that. But what I like to do, which technically would be like a gender role for a man and things like that, is I'm a licensed barber. So I'll cut hair. It's a whole bunch of other things that you don't want me to do is be the cook because that's not my passion. And when I do it, it's resentful. So you
Eat this sandwich.
it's not you know how they say you are supposed to put love in it. Well, when I'm doing it, it's a duty and it's not fun. And it's better for us to go out and get something or for him to cook. I will cook. And that is when I am purposely trying to show that I love and I care about you and I'm nurturing you. But for me, it's a real challenge. This is not, we've had this discussion early on. I feel like if, definitely don't cook. I feel like if that's something that my husband would need, I can make enough money where I can get us somebody to cook for you. That you don't want me to do it because it's not coming from a good place. And so that's a gender role for me that you won't be getting a good person. She said, oh yeah, you won't be getting a good person to cook for. Right. It's not fun for me, guys. So that's one of the gender roles. And even in our household, my mom would cut the grass because that was something that she enjoyed to do. And my dad didn't have a problem with it because if you enjoy
I thought you was
doing
going to
it,
say dad cooked. I'm going to say
Oh,
she is
no,
telling
no.
a story.
I got that from him.
I'm like, no, we didn't.
No,
No,
I
go
got
ahead,
that
go
from
ahead.
him, but that's how non-traditional that relationship was. So that might be why some of the things that we do, I just think that the relationship works better when you do what you love and what you can do to make that thing better versus being forced into a specific thing. I love to do the dishes. I love to vacuum. Those are things you want me to do. I love cleaning. So I'll do that, but the cooking, not so much. What's your thoughts?
And we're running out of time, so I'm going to say them really quick. I think biblically there is an order, and that's very different than gender roles. Gender roles are man-made, and they are determined by the culture and where you live. So there's nothing biblical about gender roles, right? But here's my take, and you heard this from me. I believe 100% that it shouldn't be something that's a detriment to your relationship, right? You know you're in a gender role if it's something you could pay somebody to do. You could have a maid, you could have a cook. Your wife's role is beyond that. If she wants to cook, great, fantastic. Cook away, clean away. But don't let, and I received that from one of my pastors when I was growing up. He said, if it's something you could, now everybody can't afford to pay to have these things done, but that lets you know what's a gender role, which is a societal expectation, versus what is more like a godly duty and obligation. Like, my body is not my own. That's biblical, right? That's a godly thing that you're going to be working towards. Same for men and having to be the sole breadwinner. Is that great? Sure, I'm sure women will love it, but that's still a gender role and an expectation. And so gender roles can be negotiated. And I would agree. The best gender roles are where you as a couple are highlighting each person's strengths. If one person is really good at math and balancing the budget, the man shouldn't just do it because he's a man. Let her balance the budget. She might have the brain of an accountant. She might be a genius. Like, let her balance the budget. That's how you're going to win. You might be married to a chef who's a man. Let him cook the meals, right? Like, I think it's more about highlighting and using your strengths as a couple so that you win, right?
Yeah, and so we still have a little more time. So,
oh, good. Well, if I could say a little more about the gender roles then. So the key is to highlight your strengths, but I do also believe in and being reciprocal, right? And I'm saying this to my ladies because we have someone who's really a gentleman, right? And very chivalrous. That means they're adopting some traditional roles. Then I do think you should reciprocate by being more feminine. So if, doors are open, coats over puddles, nobody does that. But if then yes, you should try to do some of those things that are gender roles, like cooking or whatever that might be that you negotiate in your relationship out of love. All right. So this was our freestyle. We want to give a little bit of time so that we can, we still have, okay, good. Anything else you want to say about gender roles?
No, and so I just wanted to go back to, if your mate is doing the things that you like, then you should meet them where they are. That's why I said, even though I don't enjoy cooking, I do, because it's a way of showing that I love this person. I'm doing the things that are necessary. So your mate might like, I don't know, they might like
so many things.
Get
Gender
a massage.
roles,
Just do the massage. If that person is meeting your needs and providing for you in whatever way your relationship is set up, do the necessary things that you can do to make your relationship work.
Yes. And these examples were very stereotypical, right? So it's not just cooking and cleaning for women and providing for men. There are so many things about gender roles that we could go on and on. But just making sure doors open. Yes, coat on the ground. Don't want to walk over your nice new coat. No, I hear you. Hello, Ramon Perry. We appreciate you joining us and commenting. That was a little bit of our freestyle. We talked about friendship. I forgot.
We talked about friendships. We talked about Instagram post
liking. That was the scenario.
So we talked about
what was your question to me? That's what I was trying to.
I have no idea.
We don't know. We talked about it. We gave you the petty, the professional, and the prophetic. We want to spend our last little bit of time with promoting
our event spaces, Missions Covenant Church event spaces. And we are we remodeled, and we're looking forward for you guys to come on in. If you have any questions or concerns, you can, we have a Facebook post up, Mission Covenant Event Churches. You can contact me, Trisha, and I will be so happy to have you guys come on in and just view. And, we got prom season, wedding season. We're ready for you guys.
Yes. The church is beautiful. So do be sure to take a look. And I think you will love it. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Don't forget to visit our Facebook page, You Plant, We Water, where we are open to hearing suggestions for things you'd like to hear us talk about. Perhaps you have a scenario of your own that you'd like to have us address, or maybe you just want to stop by and say hello. As always, it has been a pleasure. And remember, you plant, we water.
Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
Views made on the preceding program are not those of WVTC Radio, iNetworks Communications, or their financial supporters.
Winning victory through Christ, WVTC Allsip Chicago, and iNetworks Communication Station.